The Sick Pikin donation project started as a one-off activity with the sole aim of raising funds for baby Mustafa. A group of young people came together to champion the process. The team of young people were drawn from various fields of walks of life. You know, a clothing designer, a journalist, a humanitarian aid worker, and the mother of baby Mustafa, who was also a development worker, started to champion fundraising in January 2018. However, the project has helped so many sick babies in the country. 6 years on, we, of course, will discuss and assess the progress made thus far, the challenges faced by the project. And so in the studios, we have Ishmeal Alfred Charles, who is leading this, of course, campaign, the Sick Pikin project. Ishmeal Charles, it's a pleasure having you as always.
Thank you very much.
I think it's been an interesting journey thus far. But take us through the journey 6 years on.
It's been a very long walk from, as you already mentioned, Sick Pikin project started because we wanted to help baby Mustafa. We were very naive and thought this was a one-off case. But then, unfortunately for us, but fortunately for the many kids that have been helped, many children followed baby Mustafa, and we ended up having to deal with so many more complex situations on a regular basis. But so far, we have been able to help 306 children, of which we have sent 219 abroad. And last week, we sent 4 others, of which 3 were raised, the funds were raised by Sick Pikin, and the 1 funds were raised by the family. And all 4 of them are now in India undergoing medical review for a final determination before their surgeries can be scheduled. So it's been really very tough. It's a bittersweet moment. Along the line, we've lost some children. Some children have been healed. They're very happy, and the family has expressed, tremendous gratitude and appreciation for the support and the love that we and the public have provided, but also has brought a lot of, traumatic, destabilization for some of us who are very passionate about helping, and the fact that the resources don't come by very easily. It requires a lot of energy, a lot of time, to be able to get all the resources we need to be able to send these children for their surgery. So some of the children are actually being treated in Sierra Leone. Those that we have the capacity to treat in Sierra Leone, we treat them in Sierra Leone, even though sometimes we may have to buy certain medical supplies or equipment for the surgeries to be done in Sierra Leone. And some that cannot be treated in Sierra Leone, we've actually raised funds to send them abroad. As I speak, 56 more are on our list. It doesn't stop. That's where the problem is. Friends and families will always ask, when are you going to stop begging? Well, it's very difficult to know when we will stop because the kids keep coming. So every time you feel like this is going to be the last child that I will register because we don't have the resources, the following morning you will have a minimum of 2 more coming in. And sadly, they're all in very desperate situations and needs help.
I think that's the next question. We know most of the cases that you've been dealing with over time, these are critical situations. But how critical are these critical situations themselves?
They're very critical. I mean, that's why along the line sometimes we end up losing some children, which is not really why we exist. The reason why Sick Pikin project exists essentially is to be able to provide help for those children that comes from poor families who are not able to provide the medical bills because it's mostly very expensive. Yeah, and our goal is to help 1 child at a time, irrespective of the family cycle, where they come from, which political background, which religious background, as long as they're Sierra Leone and then they need help. And so that's what we're focused on. But the fact remains that whenever these children comes forward to us, we don't have the resources. We have to beg for 1 child at a time. And it doesn't matter what kind of condition they have, they're mostly tagged with timelines. I was sharing with someone a few moments ago, when people have conditions that are traumatic, emergency traumatic, and you say maybe your child fell down and break her hand or leg or something, whether you go to hospital or not, the hand or the leg or whatever heals on its own. But it heals in a traumatic way. And what normally happens is when it heals, it forms, what they call gangrene, and it becomes permanent. For a correctional surgery to be done, it means they have to break that arm or leg or whatever back, yeah? And then they refix it. So during that process, medics sometimes they measure the challenges, the pain, and the benefits that the process will have. That's why they always talk about the prognosis. And they will say, well, it's really not in the best interest, much difference will not be realized if we do this. So because of that, they will say, let's don't even put money or put attention into this case. But of course, every parent, every family member, every sick person will want to be able to give it a try, even though sometimes the trials are not the best at the end of the day. And so that's why sometimes you hear people say, oh, I go to hospital, they treated me, they did the surgery, but I didn't see much difference even, because there's a saying in Creole, say the water don't pass Gary. If the complicity is far more beyond what can be fixed, then it's really not much. And so that's why sometimes timelines are very significant in health-related issues. Yeah, and it takes us sometimes really long time to raise the money.
Before I allow Fabian to come in, what sort of a trauma does this one bring in you personally, dealing with all of these cases? Over 300 is not a small number.
It brings a lot of traumatic experience. So people who study mental health will tell you about post-stress traumatic disorder, which comes into effect mostly because of the fact that you're always anxious and having the goodwill and the desire to be able to help, and you feel like sometimes your capacity is too small to be able to help the number of people that needs help. And once we register children, their parents begins to follow up every week. And sometimes they call you 2 o'clock in the morning. Maybe Pikin not able for sleep. Mr. Charles, what if I do now? And so you don't have answers. Because I am not a medical doctor. I didn't go to any medical school. It's only passion that drives what we do. And so it makes it really very difficult, and you're left now laying on the bed thinking and wishing that you have a money-making machine so you can manufacture money in the morning and fix this child's condition. So those stress realities are always there. And it's never easy, and it's never going to stop, because until we're able to grow and build our own healthcare system, have more Sierra Leonean medical doctors, qualify in many more areas, and then upbeat the realities so that our healthcare system is more innovative and can handle the complex realities that our people in Sierra Leone are faced by.
Alfred, you and your team, you've become shameless beggars to save the lives of children. But this leaves us with, we have a Ministry of Health and Sanitation, one would expect. Much of this burden, Ministry of Children's Affairs, Social Welfare, should be on them. But it leads us again to understand government alone cannot do everything. However, what's the level of support that these institutions give to the Sick Pikin project?
Okay, so that's a very critical and tricky question. So from the Ministry of Health side, we used to get support, for on a case-by-case basis, not directly to Sick Pikin project, but since July of 2022, we haven't received any support for any child. So the request will normally go to the Ministry of Health for a particular child. Say for instance, Ishmeal Charles is sick, and we write a letter requesting on behalf of the family of Ishmeal Charles to the Ministry of Health. And that will normally go through a process, and then if there's an approval, then that child, Ishmeal Charles will be processed and sent abroad for surgery, and then comes back, and then we will liquidate to the Ministry of Health, supporting the family to do that. And when the funds are ready for issuance, they will be given to the family of Ishmeal Charles, not to Sick Pikin. So we've never received any direct funding. However, we've received a lot of accolades and say thank you for the work we do. which is good, but you know, sometimes that doesn't solve the problem. Yeah, and so since 2022 July, we haven't received, you know, Sick Pikin is not aware of any case that have been supported that we have sent request for. You know, even the medical board was stopped. So boarding stopped. No child actually has been through the medical board. Over 27 kids were actually sent that went through the board successfully, but none of those have actually received any support till date. Well, of course, I heard the ministry was reporting on I think it was on AYV, about the budgeting cost realities, you know, what they call the distribution of resources across the number of Sierra Leoneans and the amount that is allocated. So, and that reality means that when they help one child, they take money from other citizens, you know, to support another, you know, but then the fact remains that some of these kids have complex conditions that doesn't have time in their favor. And so they need to actually get through to the hospital as quickly as possible. For the Ministry of Gender and Children Affairs and the Ministry of Social Welfare, I mean, we have very good working relationship. If we need, you know, processing of any documents or stuff like that, they will support very quickly. But it actually happens the other way around. It's mostly from Ministry of Gender and Children Affairs that we get some children, because some families walk their children to the ministry and ask the ministry for help. And unfortunately, they don't have the resources, so they come back to us. You know, it increases the pressure on us because the belief system is that Sick Pikin Project has the money, which is really the most frustrating and difficult aspect, because whether people who work in media houses, you know, in public life, in hospitals, they all believe that Sick Pikin Project has the wherewithal to be able to raise money. So when people come with cases, then you say, we don't have money right now, we have to beg for this child. Even the mothers, if they're sitting on the sofa, they will get up and sit on the floor and start crying. They feel it's because you have not felt sympathetic enough. You don't feel like you have not empathized enough with our case. That's why you're telling us that you don't have money. So they will start crying, they will throw you into more emotional, you know, dungeon that will make you get even more cranky and don't even know what to do, and start thinking of what best solutions are there. But the truth of the matter is you can't give what you don't have. So we always have to accelerate our fundraising strategy, you know, to be able to get more money.
Part of that fundraising strategy, what's also the level of support that the Sick Pikin Project receives from the mother of the nation, the First Lady?
Well, I mean, with every sincerity, our background story, you know, stems from the support that we got from the First Lady, you know, garnering from baby Mustafa, and how the role she played in helping us raise money for baby Mustafa. We haven't been lucky enough to attract our attention, you know, after baby Mustafa's case. We're still praying and hoping that we will be able to find luck, you know, to be able to attract our attention, because we believe that in advocacy, it's about the people you know, who knows you, and the individuals who are involved. A lot of people who donate money to Sick Pikin Project today only do so because of the relationship that I have built with them on a personal level, maybe from school, university, you know, or public work life and engagements. So, because a lot of people don't even know that some people who generally knows me for Sick Pikin Project doesn't know that I work on a full-time basis for either Haley Foundation or for Caritas Freetown. So they only know that I work for Sick Pikin, and so that's another challenge. You know, so sometimes that takes away also my life, because when people see you, you know, living your normal life, they're like, they not be saying that the money we don't go bigger for them Pikin and they can spend. So, you know, they don't understand that you get paid at the end of the month. What you do is driven by passion, and many a times you spend your own personal resources on the Sick Pikin Project because it's your own baby, you know, that you're trying to make sure doesn't only crawl but work, you know. So, but the reality is we keep pushing every day to see where we can have a state-related support. One of the campaigns that we pushed some while ago was to have the Ministry of mines and mineral resources to see how they can be able to allocate a 0.5% of royalties being paid to the states from mining companies to seek picking projects. You know, the resources doesn't need to come to seek picking project directly. It can be a fund created, an emergency healthcare fund created, where people can apply, you know, on a case-by-case basis for children who that have complex conditions that needs help. Because the burden we're taking is actually a burden that is a Sierra Leonean burden. And so when it's sometimes left on us, it seems like we're carrying too much than we can actually handle. And we want to be able to infuse this into a more nationalistic, you know, campaign wherein we can have opposition members and ruling government members, you know, taking the responsibility of helping us make our work lighter so that we can be able to save many more children. Because we don't know who among those children will become the next presidents of Sierra Leone. And if we let them die, we will probably be losing the best brains, you know, of our country.
The list of sick kids would not end anytime soon. But then resources are scarce.
Absolutely.
I see sick picking at St. John sometimes, cutting tree, and you have volunteers out with cartoons begging. You have some of those at some banks as well. Beyond the methods you're using to raising resources, and the bills are paid in USD for most of these children, but you're raising the money in Leones, and we know the relationship between the USD and the Leones. What are further innovative ways that your team have thought of to make the help that comes through to these sick children more sustainable?
Well, on a regular basis, part of the reason why we're here today on AYV television is to continue to bring, you know, our cases to people. For us, transparency and accountability has been a watch, and on a consistent basis, we're able to walk through donors. You know, when the child is sick, which child we're raising money for, and when that child goes through the process, we're able to provide a comprehensive update. And that actually has been one of our biggest success. Yeah, many scam, you know, programs and projects have actually, you know, emerged for a very short period. We've been consistent for 7 years down the line, consistently doing the same things, but also improving innovatively. So we use a lot of radio and television engagements. We use social media platforms. We broadcast to over 5,000 people on a regular basis, both in and out of Sierra Leone, to tell them the stories and retell them the stories of how we got to where we are, what child we're looking at a given time, and stuff like that. But we also go further and use our Facebook page and other social media platforms, you know, so that we can consistently engage people. We have many patrons, both in the opposition and in government, and also, you know, people in public life, you know, that have demonstrated commitment to the Sick Picking project. So on a regular basis, we continue to reach out to people so that their interests, you know, are sustained, and that's how we will be able to get supports and resources. And because of the transparent way we've actually carried ourselves over this period, the trust, we've earned the trust of many people, you know, even though some are not so consistent as others are. Those who are very consistent are very, you know, minimal, and because of that reason, we struggle a lot. But it's a continuous process, and sometimes when, you know, my paid job gets entangled, you know, and steal me more, it makes Sick Picking project struggles a little bit. And so that's also another challenge, realistically, because we have a battery of 16 volunteers, but these are all unpaid students and you know, loose volunteers who actually have their own paid jobs, but then come from time to time to provide time and support the Sick Picking project. So when they get too engaged with the other engagements that they have, it also takes time away. We only have one staffer who is 100% committed to Sick Picking projects, who actually happens to be our project coordinator. And so that's also another challenge. However, we've been able to pull through even with these challenges, and continue to support the children in the ways we can.
Ishmeal, on the loop side of things, I listened carefully when you were talking of the your connections, so perhaps the interactions you've had with a lot of MDs in country in support of the project. One will say they might not have come in full as a result of the aspect of the floodgates, not to get many other cases, knowing well that, oh, now the ministry, some cases from the Pikin projects, they've supported them, so to speak. Ishmeal, don't you think the aspect of floodgate is what might have hindered their full support of the project itself?
Well, so there's a whole concept on humanitarianism, of what we call humanitarian numbness. And over a period, some school of thought has argued that, even in Africa especially, people likes to beg and things like this. But I always say, under normal circumstance, people who request for help must be people who need some help, genuinely and realistically. When it comes to integrity and realistic needs, it's only people who actually needs help will ask for help. So if the people come, if there's a floodgate circumstance wherein many more people will be asking, it's because probably they need help. And it's also on us to be able to verify who genuinely needs that help. And one of the things that we've done at Pikin Project is to be able to, on a consistent basis, work with the doctors in Sierra Leone and be able to determine what child needs help the most. Because that's also where the reality is. You would not give resources to someone who needs only $2,000, $5,000 or $10,000 when you could be able to give $5,000 to someone who needs only $2,000. You can leverage on the resources. The $3,000 that you're giving extra could be used for another child or for another case. So that's how we have actually been able to leverage. On a regular basis, we will always first ask the hospital in India for what discounts we can attract, for this child. And because they already know that we are not a rich project, we're a begging project. We literally go out on the street and beg to get money for the children we send. Every child will always ask, okay, so this is $6,500 case. How much discount are you willing to give us on this case? And they will say, oh, we've already given your discounts, but can we have a little bit more? Because it's always a bargaining process. And we can say, okay, well, we can reduce one more thousand. Yeah, and so a case that originally could have cost us $6,500, we could only pay $5,500. So, and as Phoebe mentioned, we actually struggle and battles with the exchange rates every day. We're the biggest beneficiary when the exchange rate was stable for this number of period that it was. Because when you raise money, sometimes people ask you on the streets, we are still living for the same Pikin, one child, 2 years. Or 3 years. Caleb, for instance, that we recently sent, is currently in India undergoing his review. Caleb actually had what doctors call plexiform neurofibromatosis, which is causing his head to be swollen and creating complex issues. We started trying to raise money for Caleb 3 years ago. Since 2021. We were very hopeful and excited because we actually succeeded when Mastership was coming. So some people are asking, why not go through Mastership and all that? We have very good working relationship with Mastership, So we had a list, we sent to Mastership, they accepted the list, our children were taken for review, they were reviewed, I think we sent about 36 and 18 were taken out of the list, and accepted by Mastership. But then over the period, after comprehensive review, some were dropped. And Caleb happened to be one of those, He was admitted on the ship and reviewed and everything. When, after that point, the mother was, almost gone mad. Went really into a very serious depressive situation because she felt everything was going to happen. Our child was going to be treated. And then, probably there was no specialist on board at the given time and things like this. So some people also sometimes don't understand that Mastership actually is a voluntary engagement process. So it also gives, they also have limitations. That's the reality. And so when Caleb actually was released, we actually had to go back to the public and start raising money for Caleb. Yeah, and at the end of the day, when we were able to get, we've still not been able to get the complete amount for Caleb, but we took the advantage, we took the risk and sent him to the hospital so that, you know, they can start doing what they're supposed to do while we continue to reach out to people and beg. We still need a total of about $3,500.
What was the total then?
His total amount is about $13,200, but we were able to raise, I think when we reached 7,000, we started immediately to push, because that's how we also work. When we get to certain points, we always decide that the goal is to save the child. So it's not to only collect money. And for us, if we raise money and then we lose the child, it inflicts more pain and makes our efforts become useless. And so we had recently one child, Aisata Jallo, you know, that we worked together with the family, and the Jallo family was able to raise about $3,550 through a GoFundMe platform that was set up in Holland, in the Netherlands. And this money was raised, and then unfortunately the girl passed away. The family was magnanimous enough, came to us and say, we want to donate this money to a child that has a similar condition. So this was how we were able to put Aisatu Koroma on the list. Yeah, so Aisatu Aisha Koroma immediately got on the list of those that went right now, because we already had $3,550. And so we used the money that we have already raised, you know, from our social media platforms and other means in the US, because Sick Pikin project is registered in the US and also in the UK. So to be able to send these children that we sent, we had to actually took all the resources we have in Rokel Commercial Bank, in Vista Bank, in our US account and our UK account, just so we can be able to match, because it's been really very difficult raising money in the recent times.
I can understand the critical nature of the cases that you've received over time, but 6 years down the line, has these projects helped in even shaping the health sector of this country? Because one will be thinking, we've been receiving cases of this nature some 6 years ago. Let's see ways to realign the health status of the country as it has to do with the cases that we get on a normal basis. Has it actually helped?
Well, I will say yes, in a way, because Sick Pikin Project does not only raise money and send kids. We're actually also very active in terms of you know, public awareness raising around, you know, preventive you know, mechanisms. We've always warned pregnant women not to take medicines where doctor not give you. Yeah, for instance, because a lot of people sometimes were speculating very strongly that many children are born with congenital heart diseases because of the fact that when women are pregnant, they have excessive back pain. And sometimes they go to the neighboring quack nurses or drug peddlers that are called doctors. So in Sierra Leone, if you sell medicine and you're male, they just call you doctor. If you're a female, even if you're a doctor, you work in the hospital, people will still call you nurse. Just because we assign those roles based on our gender perspective, which is not really correct. And so because of this, people put a lot of premium and respect. When you are sick, you don't go to the hospital, you go to the neighboring nurse or drug peddler just to buy medicines. And so sometimes when mothers, pregnant mothers, you know, buy drugs and take medicines that they're not supposed to take, for instance, diclofenac, it's a very strong painkiller, which is not appropriate for a pregnant woman. I'm not a medical doctor, but we all will agree that if a woman is pregnant, she is supposed to go to the hospital. If you're feeling pain, the doctors need to advise and guide you. If they have to put you on a strong painkiller, they have to be able to have a mechanism to monitor your fetus so that they're sure that your baby inside is not affected by this medicine you're taking. Some people, they drink, they smoke, and so all those affects the baby. Everything you eat or drink when you're pregnant, there's a portion that the baby eats and drink. So it's common, yeah? And people need to understand this. And that's why they need for stop. That's why I want to say this even in Creole. Not take medicine with doctor, not give you na belle woman. Because it's just simple. Go to the hospital and get it right. Don't go to a nurse in a neighborhood and complain that, oh, I have too much, you know, waist pain, and then they give you some strong painkiller or an injection or something. We love medicine and injectables. That's another problem in Sierra Leone.
In a score of 1 to 10, where will you rate our current health status? I mean, the facilities we have in the country to cure the most of the
that's
problems.
That's a very difficult one. As myself, I'm not a medical expert.
I know.
You know, I always love to derobe because I don't want to send the wrong signal. But from experience, I will say we're really very far away. But the beautiful thing is the Ministry of Health, you know, has changed their strategy. It's been, over the years, it's been mostly on primary healthcare. Now, the Ministry of Health is actually shifting to secondary healthcare, which is actually a promising reality. So that means we will be able to upbeat and upgrade, you know, to certain levels that can allow us to be able to take on, you know, more critical, what I would call basically critical conditions. So sometimes when the doctors in India ask me for specific kind of laboratory review to be done on the patients before they are sent to India, and I say, no, we don't have that here. I have checked in all the laboratories that we have, whether it's ECOMED or Toy Trams or, you know, the sophisticated ones that we have, or Ramsey, and they're not able to do this. They will be like, oh, really? You know, so sometimes they were tempted to send patients all the way only to Ghana, only to get further laboratory review, because many people sometimes say, why are you not sending the patients, you know, to do for the surgeries in Ghana? Our healthcare system is not you know, much. There's not much difference between what we have in Sierra Leone and what they have in Ghana. That's the reality, because also in Ghana, specialists come from time to time. So one of my colleagues had needed a tendon repair, you know, and went to Ghana. I took him to Ghana, and when we did the review there, we found out that there is no tendon repair specialist in Ghana. For obvious reasons, this individual had to come back to Sierra Leone and wait until a certain period. And the donor that was supposed to support this particular surgery didn't support it when the specialist actually came. You know, so that's an unfortunate situation. So you have those realities. So that's why I always give the analogy of whether you want to send someone to Dovecourt Market or to Kisi Road Market. Dovecourt Market is always muddy, it's far, and it's difficult to go. But when you get there, you get everything you need. Kisi Road Market is very cool, it's nice, it's sexy, but it's more expensive and you don't get everything you need. So that's the analogy between sending the patients to Ghana and one to India. Yeah, India is pretty far, but it's cheaper comparatively. Ghana is more expensive when it comes to accommodation and things like this. But if you already have a specialist known and you're able to fix the appointment and be sure, then you can take the risk.
Alfred, let's talk about the mental health of you and members of your team. These things can get depressing. How are you preserving or protecting your mental health?
Well, as a trained humanitarian and someone who has you know, leadership background, I have learned over the period how to actually you know, build into our programs and engagements consistently mechanisms on how we can actually find ways to cope. A coping strategy is very significant, and being able to you know, have sessions and engagements on post-stress, you know, post-stress and traumatic disorder helps, you know, us to actually breathe again. You know, I have a mental health specialist that I speak with on a regular basis, not only for the work that I do with Pikin project, but also for the work that I do with Haley Foundation, and also the work that I do with Caritas, because I'm always finding myself, you know, working in very complex situations wherein it's 500 people or 1,000 people who lost their houses, and we have to lead, you know, response to such a process. It's working with Ebola survivors. Right now, as I speak, my team is in the province doing distribution to Ebola survivors across the country. You know, several years down the line, 10 years and more down the line, we're still the only group under our Partnering to Serve Humanity Consortium providing support to Ebola survivors. So some people still ask, but why are you still providing help for them? It's been so long. They don't understand. hemorrhagic fever left these people with 16 common complications. And the promise and expectation was that they will have had opportunity to have access to healthcare on a consistent basis. Because some of the Ebola survivor women still can't have their menses, even when they are still within the age. Some have hair loss. Their hair cannot grow. If they have haircuts, it will not grow again. Some men struggles with erectional dysfunction. And all of these inconsistent joint pain, which is a common situation. And a lot of them are having eye defection. So what we're doing is providing this under the Partnering to Serve Humanity Consortium, which is a consortium that's formed by 4 organizations, the Haley Foundation, Caritas Freetown Lan Yi Foundation, and Tzu Chi Foundation, which is a Taiwanese-based foundation that sends us rice that we distribute to these survivors, 4,000 survivors across the country. We use this platform to also, provide them with psycho education and psychotraumatic engagements. So on a regular basis, we try to just find out how now they do. How do you feel this time? We do it once every year. It's not much, but at least we're able to provide us consistent support. 10 years down the line, we're still doing it. And right now we're doing a 10 years evaluation to see how much Tzu Chi's support in Sierra Leone have actually impacted on the work that we're doing in across the country. So sometimes when you hear individual stories, it actually has a lot of impact on you. And you ask yourself, what do you make we do so? Why are we having so much problems every day? Why is it that sometimes it's so hard to fix all the problems? Why are the problems so many? And the more you do this, the more you feel like you're not doing anything. People in Susan's Bay lose their house. 700 families, lost their houses to an inferno because someone had wrong electrical connection or was cooking and something went wrong, and because of the building stylings in those slum settings, there's no space between the houses, and so when there's fire in one house, it travels really very fast, and because they are very close to the sea, there's a sea wind that helps to spread it like a wildfire, and then many houses get consumed. And these people lose their houses and lose their properties. We have to find a way of providing support. The National Disaster Management Agency, that is the national institution that is responsible for such, doesn't have all the capacity. So we have to also come in to complement the efforts. So on a regular basis, you're involved in everyday something some people call crazy. But it brings a lot of fulfillment at the end of the day, because when we see those people smiling, it makes you feel gratified and makes you feel fulfilled.
As you say that, Kriyobobo says on our Facebook page, the Sick Pikin venture is a laudable one, but it is not sustainable. It is imperative that the government focuses on establishing good and modern medical centers in the country where all these medical issues could be addressed. Donald Dock says, Caritas is a German humanitarian institution in different areas. In fact, they also deal with people in old people's home. What type of assistance do you get from them?
Okay, let me just continue reading the other messages. This one is from It's have you guys thought about sending this patient to Mexico? Although the language barrier is a problem, but their medical cost is very cheap.
Bashiru Lakisin Mustafa Falewe says, since it seems like we have much to do.
Michael Nicholas Kamara says, giving children a second chance to life is what I have seen Mr. Charles strive towards. If the government thought its ministries can invest more in healthcare for children, we will not lose kids on a daily basis due to financial constraints. God bless you, Mr. Charles.
Okay.
Just a quick one from Osfren Kamai says, it's I think he was saying a calcification process of the bone healing process. Bone tissues are hardened. It can be normal and abnormal during the healing process of sight. Thanks, Ishmeal Alfred, Morgan Heritage Charles, for your relentless efforts. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks.
I never knew you had Morgan Heritage in your name.
Well, I do have Morgan Heritage just on Facebook. It's not my official name, but I'm a very strong, and passionate lover of reggae music. And Morgan Heritage, happens to be one of the biggest, one of my biggest group that I love and follow very much. And they have a song called Helping Hand, which is a song that inspires me on a regular basis. So it says, give helping hand to your brother, whether it's your brother or your sister, or your friend, it doesn't matter. People who need help, they need help. And God created us, basically, to be able to continue to do that. And so
I think us friends could have been a very big fan. That's more the reason why. But nonetheless, the messages.
Yes, but thanks to every texter, including us friend and others. Creo Bobo mentioned the sustainability, which is something we are very much aware of. So Creole people them say, dry dog sweet, but wait till you gonna eat till the dog to dry. So that's why Sick Pikin exists. Yeah, we're constantly reminded of the fact that it's not a sustainable project. It's not a sustainable. But people who are sick will tell you, at 24 hours, around the clock, for someone who is sick with a complex condition and in pain, feels like 24 months for a regular person. And so that's what the reality is. Every day someone who is sick sleeps, they are in consistent agony and pain. And we want to be able to reduce the pain before and while we continue to work and advocate for the state to be able to, upbeat our health care system. Yeah, so we're advocating to fix what we can, but at the same time help those. Because many a times we say, do we stop and use the resources we're raising now to find or build one hospital? So what happens? What becomes of those who are sick currently? We let them die? No one, no parents, no family member. If you're not connected, you will say, yes, let's do it that way. But if it's your relative, you will definitely say, no, let's fix this one while we continue to try. And that's what we're basically trying to do. We bring hope, we give hope. We support those that we can so that we can be able to transform lives and heal and give them second chance in life. And so we will continue to push. That's part of the reason why one of our big campaigns is One Sober Hospital, which means let's have one comprehensive hospital that will start and provide and begin with a congenital heart disease, where we can have a heart, a heart unit and have heart surgeons, congenital cardiology surgeons that can do children's surgery in Sierra Leone, heart surgeries in Sierra Leone, and then we take it from the next level. And then we can go and expand and expand and expand. Yeah? We can only be able to do that when we have the trained Sierra Leoneans who are ready to stay and continue to work and have the right equipment and the science and technology that are required. Because if we don't have the biomedical machineries, we cannot. The second question says, from about Caritas Germany. Yes, when Caritas is not a German organization. Every Caritas is a confederation founded originally in Italy by, in Rome precisely, by the Catholic Church. So by our foundation, we are moved by the social teachings of the church and we're guided by the principles of the church. However, Sick Pikin Project also is a registered organization that partners with Caritas. Originally, Sick Pikin was born by Caritas. And because my paid responsibility is with Caritas, it's housed in Caritas, but it's legally registered as its own entity. And so that means that we have to be able to understand those realities. However, Caritas is a local non-governmental organization under the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Freetown. So there are 4 Caritases in Sierra Leone. We have Caritas Kenema, McKinney, Bow, and Freetown.
We would look at those perhaps another day. We would love to play Helping Hands for You by Morgan Heritage as we seek to do whatever we can to support your mental health. Since we can't have that, we'll play you Pato Ranking's Heal the World.
Now, Charles, back to you, Charles, in our main studios. I think as we were going for a break, you've just had another case, I mean, added up to the barrage of cases that are yet to be attended to. I know it comes in with mixed feeling at this moment. You getting worried for the problems of other people.
That's the reality of our life. So many a times the purpose why we go on, media platforms like this is to be able to raise awareness, but at the same time try to galvanize support from people. But what we get more often is the majority of the people, when we announce our numbers, when we share testimonies, what we normally, leave the studios with is more cases. So that's what just happened. Someone may have just, seen the conversation and decided, so I switched my phone off and there are 14 missed calls. And there's a new case in Bow, and this individual says they're currently admitted at Kindoya Hospital in Bow, and the child needs help urgently. So this is just how they put it sometimes, and without even sometimes understanding from the doctors what the cases are, what's condition, what can be done, they will already start reaching out to you, and I don't have a medical background. I always have to listen to what the doctor says.
Ishmeal, as we try to round off to catch up to the time, to those who watch and listen right now who would want to help, how can they support Sick Pikin Project?
So we started off this campaign and say, let us have 10,000 Sierra Leoneans that will say, I will give 30 leones or 50 leones every month. It's not a huge amount of money. But we also say at Sick Pikin that nothing, not too small. If we have a consistent number of people, that number of people who gives this amount on a regular basis, it will already be not enough, but in a way, enough to be able to take the risk. And we can say, let's send this child while they're reviewing, because we know at the end of the month, we will get more money and we will pay for this child's bill. And so on a regular basis, we wouldn't have to be worried about raising money all the time. We can just take the case and use that and do that.
So to those who would want to be a part of that 10,000 Sierra Leoneans, how do they send their support across?
Very many platforms. If you're in America, you're in the United States, we have a Cash App and we have a GoFundMe platform. If you just put on Google Sick Pikin GoFundMe, you will get our GoFundMe platform, or you can go to our Sick Pikin page on Facebook. It's called Sick Pikin Project International on our Facebook page, or you can go on our website on www.sickpikin.org, and the Pikin we spell as P-I-K-I-N. Yeah, or you can reach out to us on +232 76 722 736, or on +232 8800 230000, or +232 7679 3010. So those are the ways you can reach out to us, or you can come to our office on 19 Savage Street at Caritas Freetown's office, and you will be able to talk to one of our volunteers. But you can always follow us on Facebook or any other social media platform.
Thank you very much,
Thank you so very
Ishmeal
much.
Alfred Charles from the Sick Pikin Project, talking about the project itself. Please endeavor to support as best as you can, following all the platforms he just mentioned.